You're listening to a TGM production. Hello, today's date is the 23rd of December 2025 at 4:15 p.m. My name is Tom Mason, and this is the 2025 opening to the next episode of Chatterbox, recorded on my iPhone in my living room, stood on a hard floor near the Christmas tree. So, yeah. I wanted to make this opening to say that Chatterbox will be changing. I will never make this announcement again. I'll never make a similar announcement like this, but Chatterbox is changing. I've been listening to Agonies with Grace Jarvis, a podcast all about different levels of pain by Australian comedian Grace Jarvis. I previously have interviewed her for my comedy interview series, One Comedian, 8 Questions. She's a fantastic comedian who recently did a solo episode. In my last episode of Chatterbox, I mentioned the podcast Helen's Love, hosted by Helen Bauer, where she solely talks, but she has producers and production team behind her. Grace Jarvis is on her own and has good knowledge of how to use a microphone. From what I can gather, not actually seeing the equipment, I think she uses a very similar equipment to what I use, but it's also very different. Now, this means that the way she delivers her podcast episode is from her notes, her stand-up comedy notes. So, from this episode onwards, I'll be writing down notes of ideas of things I might want to talk about on Chatterbox. This is not a comedy podcast. This is a podcast where I talk about anything and literally anything. If it's funny, well, it's funny. If it's not, then it's not. Because this is released on YouTube, on the Weird Side YouTube channel, which is where I talk about all things TV. Over the years, each series I make, I separate into its own YouTube channel, but this time, as of the 23rd of December 2025, it is solely, I repeat, it is solely a TV-focused channel. But we have podcasts about the Six Idiots, we have a podcast about the Avengers TV series in the UK, we have a podcast all about Friday Night Dinner, and we have Chatterbox. Other podcasts will come and go, other series ideas will come and go, but I have 23 YouTube channels. Not 23, sorry. 32 YouTube channels and 20 podcasts. 32 is a big number, but my latest channel, Galactic Hitchhikers, is a documentary and audio drama / visual channel. On that channel, you will see a documentary about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, separated into 3 different videos into the different genres of medium that the programme has taken. You'll also hear my own original audio drama series that is turning, once I get the budget and get the people, it'll turn into an animated series, but at the moment it'll be audio, so when I get the animated series up and running in 10-20 years time, then we'll just convert the audio episodes to an animated, because I can't animate and I don't know any animators as of the 23rd of December 2025. So, thank you for listening. Please enjoy what's next. Will it be February 2026? Will it be March 2026? Or will it be January the 1st, 2026? Who knows what the next part of Chatterbox will be, but this is part 1 of 2025. It's nearly Christmas! Step into Christmas, step into Christmas. We don't need to talk ever. I'm so excited for Christmas. Can't wait. Today is Tuesday, and Christmas is on Thursday. Whoop whoop! Today's date is the 8th of January 2026, and welcome to another part of Chatterbox. As you will have heard, the first part of Chatterbox was recorded via the iPhone on the, I can't remember now, must have been the 23rd of January. I mean 23rd of December. I can't remember the date. I'm currently right this second looking out the window. Now, I can't tell if it's snowing or not, but it has been snowing. Normally, at night is better. You can see by, if you live in an area that has a street street light, we're not in the Victorian era, then you can see that. Now, today's topic of conversation will be about solo podcasts, because I was listening to Sophie Hagen's. I was listening to the trailer for Sophie Hagen's podcast, a new one, which I don't know how I was already following it on Spotify before I even knew about it. I had to look it up and go, does that exist or whatever? You know what I mean? So I thought, that's odd. And I was thinking to myself, well, it's odd, right? It's odd, but something must have happened to make it not odd, right? Do you know what I mean? So, anyway, so she was talking about the fact that she wanted to strip everything down, no high production value, no studio, no filming, no adverts. She wanted to go back to the origin of podcasts. Now, she said solo podcast. This is what I'm doing right now, is a solo podcast. She did a solo podcast episode, but what she didn't do, right, which what she said she's going to do, which technically then doesn't class it as a solo podcast, is that we're going to interview people, have guests. That doesn't make it a solo podcast, right? You can have a solo podcast episode where it's just you whittering onto the microphone for X amount of hours, but that is a solo podcast. Having a guest doesn't make it solo because you talk to someone else. Talk to yourself, like talking to a microphone like what I'm doing right now. That's a solo podcast because I'm talking to a microphone, which technically I'm talking to myself, but when people listen to this, then it's not... this is still solo, right? And you have to ask yourself the greatest question of all. How many people on podcasts, whether or not that's YouTube exclusive podcasts or you podcasts, how many of them actually record them solo? There's not going to be many, because this is my only... I've got a few solo podcasts that are not interview podcasts, so Blue Box Files is now an interview podcast where I interview people from the world of Doctor Who. Joking Apart is an interview podcast. Joking is a podcast where I ask... that's technically solo, because it's either me or whoever else I've got to tell a joke. The Niche podcast is an interview podcast, and Mad for Services is an interview extra, so do it at the end of an interview, and it is a podcast because I wanted my own like stone clearing, washing up club type show. So what that is technically an interview podcast, but it isn't really an interview podcast because you're not really interviewing because it's as long as it is. I really can't tell if it's snowing or not. I've looked several times now and I can't tell. So I think this counts as a solo podcast because I'm currently standing about, walking and talking, because I'm generating the thought process of what I'm going to discuss, how I'm going to discuss it, and when I'm going to discuss it. So the next point of call in the list of topics that we've decided to talk about is Twitch. Now, for years, I didn't really understand I didn't know what Twitch was. And then at some point, I discovered what Twitch was, and I started using Twitch to live stream, or as I now call it, live broadcasting, because I'm trying to get into TV. So if I use TV terminology, I can sound more professional and TV oriented. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yes. And what I've discovered is that I did it, right? So I did it at the time. I did two live streams. One that was welcome everyone to this Twitch channel. I think that's what they're called. And one that was a live stream of a game. Originally it was called Silly BOPB because that's what I was called on the interwebs at that time. I'm now no longer called that. Then I went on to change the name again to, must have been The Who Gamer, because that's what my second channel, The Who Gamer, was called at that time. Now the channel's called Tom's Facts of the Day because I don't play video games anymore. I'm still hesitating whether or not I want to re-edit those game videos for Tom Jarvu or make them accessible and add audio description to them. I've not yet decided if that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, so then I thought, I'm not really a fan of the name The Who Gamer, and I might do Twitch again. So I renamed it to Tom Mason, but apparently Tom Mason was taken, so I had to be called the official Tom Mason. Now, that meant that I wasn't tied down to any type of live broadcasting. I wasn't tied down to gaming. I wasn't tied down to whatever. So now I've got free reign. Now, as you know, I run my own production company, TGM, and it meant that we could develop ideas for live shows and do them. So last year, at the end of last year, I did 3 or 4 live broadcasts. 2 were live stand-up shows. 2 was Albert Flowerpot Christmas messages, where the first one was going to be the only one, and then I felt like I could improve it a lot, and I had new ideas of what to do to improve the idea. So I ended up deciding to do it again, but this time improve it, and because of the information I was given, I had some other aspects I had to sort of deal with. Because when you're watching Saturday Mashup, or Sunday Brunch, or Saturday Kitchen, it's all live broadcasts, but there's no communication with the audience immediately because they have to go via a website. And so then someone's up in a gallery creating the information and then read it off. Sunday Brunch is different because they get stuff in advance. Or it's a whole hoo-ha. They don't faff around with... They don't have a website that's got a live commenting system on it, unlike CBBC. So I thought, for the second time around, when I had heard someone wanted to join me, it was Mr. Ben Rufus Green, the actor, wanted to join to watch one of my live broadcasts. I then sent him this, now because it was Albert Flowerpot's second episode and I had semi-script and I knew what was going on, I had to write in to this short version of a script to improvise the bits where I have to interact with the chat. And I know that it became less Christmas messagey, but I now know that for next year's Albert Flowerpot's Christmas message live, I'll do episode 2 live and episode 1 pre-recorded, because I think it will be better to have the traditional pre-recorded Christmas message bit, but instead of just I'm trying to think what the word is. I pre-record it, then live stream it to Twitch, and then, but I've already uploaded the pre-recorded version on YouTube at that point. But I live stream it to Twitch to say, and I had a bit at the beginning, right? So this is for Twitch only. What you're about to see is a pre-recorded Christmas message from Albert Flowerpot as he prepares to get ready for the first live event. He wanted to pre-record this. We had asked him to pre-record this. It wasn't his choice. We'd asked him to pre-record it. He was willing to abide by that rule. Now, he's here to give you this message. He will be live broadcasting his next message because he felt like, because he demanded that, and we were like, well, we're going to have to back down from that now. And we're not mean people here at TGM, we just wanted to make sure that it's the best it can be. We don't want it to be bad, we don't want it to be good, we want it to be the best that it can be. And that's what you have to do at this point. So at this point, you have to then go, well, yeah, go with it. And that's what I would do. Because it gives the opportunity to improve on bits where you sort of felt like they weren't going to go great. And they might have needed improving. Do you know what I mean? So you have to look at it and go, yeah, no, we will improve it. It'll be it will work in a sense of that's a good idea. But then what you have to think about when you come to Twitch, because it's a live broadcasting platform unlike YouTube, which has the capability, but I feel like for me, I've sort of want to have the control over what I have on YouTube. So I live broadcast it on Twitch. Because of it being an experiment, I can have issues go wrong and things go wrong. But then on the YouTube platforms where I then showcase the stuff on my website and distribute it elsewhere, it means I can fix those errors, like if there was an issue with the recorded live stream in the beginning, or when I press start I didn't then start for ages because I had an issue. I can then cut those bits out and go, this is the best of the best, this is the edited version. Yes, bits have been cut out, but it's still the best of the best in my opinion. And you sort of then go, you're showing pride in your work, right? I'm showing pride in what I'm making. I'm showing pride in how I'm going about making it. And I think, overall, that's a good thing. Yes, I do think that's a good thing. So, going forward for TGM, which we did have a podcast called GGM Productions, the podcast, and then I realised I don't need to use the word productions. Then TGM it was called, but because I do a lot of Chatterbox, because Chatterbox really sort of filled that remit, it's now, once I've got my website back up and running, in a sense of there's a few bits need tweaking before I can do it, I'm going to shove it in the archive section of the podcast page on my website, tommason.uk. And I want to just explain for a brief moment where I have these ideas, like constantly have ideas where I want to create new podcasts and new YouTube channels, and I try and get myself out of that mindset and go, no, you're not doing that. You're not creating a new podcast. You're not creating a new YouTube channel, and then I end up doing it. So, the other week, I'll be honest, the other week I was considering cancelling, I don't like saying this, but this podcast, and to create a spiritual successor. That's because I saw Sophie, and sorry, I got her name wrong. Sophie Hagen's podcast, and I thought that's a really good logo. I hate trying to just change logos over and over and over and over and over again, because it just gets boring, and then some platforms don't update. So I stopped using Apple Podcasts yonks ago, because they kept trying to download like 50 million podcasts, even though I told them, no, I don't want to download the podcast. Yes, I want to listen to it, but no, I do not want to download it. And the app went, oh, download it. It was like 50, my phone ran out of storage because it was downloading podcasts, and then I deleted them. Then more downloaded, and more downloaded. And it's like, No! I've told you once, and I won't tell you again. I don't want it downloaded. So, I ditched Apple Podcasts and went to Spotify. They've not forced me to download anything. Yes, they might have sent me 15 million emails trying to get me to use a free trial for Spotify Premium, and I've ignored them. But luckily, I'm away with that. Now, speaking of Spotify, I don't know enough about Spotify or enough about things in general. Like, there's a lot of things I don't know about. But there's something called a Spotify Wrapped. I heard about it on the last leg. We were discussing it. And I think what I can gather is when they talk about your most listened to, like, song of the year or which singer or band you've been listening to, right? And then I remembered them introducing podcasts, because podcasts are becoming a massive thing on the platform. And I then, when I found out about this, and I started using Spotify a lot because I started to listen to more podcasts, I generally thought to myself, yeah, I think I might get whatever this is. And so I was listening to podcasts and podcasts and podcasts, months and months and months and months and months and months and months. And at the end of the day, it worked. It didn't work, but at the end of the day, it didn't work. It became a sort of not a good system because they didn't say to get this thing, you had to listen to music as well. And I thought that's a little bit like it's lying at that point, which isn't great. And I think that they should have improved it. And then once I found out 3rd year in a row that I wasn't getting this thing, I then found out that the best way to go about getting this thing is by listening to music. So I created a playlist, and to make it work, I created a playlist that had songs on it that, because I listen to Apple Music, if I listen to music, I'm listening to Apple Music. So I downloaded all the albums, songs, like things, bands I could think of that I'm into, like musicals, film scores, TV scores, musical film scores, soundtracks to musicals, songs by people that I watched on YouTube that one time, the Beatles, Queen, 80s, 70s, 50s, 40s, wartime, Bach, classical music, and all that, so that I've got about 4,000 songs on it. And what I do, because I want to see what my top podcast is of the year, what podcast do I listen to the most, and I want to know whether or not that includes a video podcast, because you can now watch podcasts on Spotify, which is what you're doing now. You're watching this on Spotify, because even though there's nothing really visually going on, there's still an image of that. Now, with listening, with this, so what I do is then press play on the playlist. The app on the iPad is better than the app on the phone, so app the iPad starts from the beginning, and I can select the song if I actually want to listen to a song. On the phone app, you have to press play and it'll shuffle and sometimes play songs that aren't in the playlist. So then what will happen is I'll have like 48 songs like the other day listened to, and I didn't listen to 20 of them because I had my phone on mute, volume off. And so then what that meant was that I could then let the system think I've been listening to all this music, so that it'll give me the thing I want, so I can then see what podcasts I listen to the most. So when I'm not doing that, I will listen to the podcast I listen to. So, without me falling over, Agonies with Grace Jarvis, How Very Hannah, The Rest is Entertainment, The one I can't think of the name of right now, but it's by Toby Haydock. Says Who podcast. Helen's Vlog. No Such Thing as a Fish. I'm trying to think of other podcasts and all these others. And I listen to episodes of like Get a Real Job, which is a fantastic, fascinating podcast about the TV industry. So you sort of get the aspect of I listen to podcasts, and last year I listened to more than I listened to the year before, and this year I'm going to listen to more than I listened to the year before, and so that I can then get this thing. So if I just play the music, like right now, I've got the Spotify thing going right this second, I think. I will do in a second. I've got it going, and it's currently playing the title music to the TV show The Missing. And what that will do now is it'll play it and it'll recognise it in its data, in its system, so that at the end of the year, because I've been doing this since I found out I couldn't get it, but because it's now the 8th of January, it means that as it goes on, I'll be able to understand whether or not at the end of the year we'll get this data. Hopefully, because I listened to 48 songs in a row, and then I did some of it last night, doing some of it today, and then I'll do more of it next week, and the months after, and just every so often I'll trickle that through as I listen to podcasts on the platform to be able to work out whether or not I get this thing that I don't fully understand, but I'll love to understand it, because it seems fascinating. I know that Apple Music does a similar thing, and you can work out how many times in a month you listen to Get Back by the Beatles, which isn't something you necessarily want to know how many times you listen to X song. Like, how many times did you listen to Wheels on the Bus go round and round? That's the question. And you have to ask yourself the question, how many times did you listen to nursery songs? If you're like young children and you listen to Apple Music, you'll have like, this month, in June, you listened to Wheels on the Bus 14,000 times. We're so sorry. Because they'll assume you've got children and that. But if you just listen to it generally, it depends on which version you listen to. Is it the version you listen to as a child, or is it like a Nelly the Elephant situation where it's like a rock-heavy version of it? Over Christmas, some band, that song, when I sit by the fire, wherever you may go, feel like from Muppets Christmas Carol, or there was a heavy rock version. It is the season to be there, and it's like, no need, sir. We don't need to do that. Thank you very much. But just to round off this episode of Chatterbox, where we've chatted about solo podcasts, we've chatted about the TGM's podcast, we've talked about my website, we've talked about Twitch, and we've talked about Spotify. To end off, let's talk about my music taste. My music taste starts at 1914 and ends at early 2000s. The early 2000s is a debate on that one, because currently, I think that the end of the early 2000s is 2006, but I could be wrong, it could be further back. If so, then I'll no longer be listening to music from 2006. But if anyone can tell me when does the early 2000s ends, that'll be greatly appreciated. At the moment, we're listening to, on Spotify, Thames Television Themes by Matt Berry, and it's a World in Action. Let's listen to a brief segment. So I'm thinking Matt Berry is playing that. We're 35 seconds in to that. I think Matt Berry is playing that himself. Or he's got highly successful musicians to play that with him. Because obviously Matt Berry is very well known and he'll know a lot of people. Matt Berry, if anyone doesn't know, was Stephen Toast in Toast in London and Toast in Tinseltown. He was a vampire, I can't remember his name, in What Do We Do in the Shadows. He was Denham's son in the IT Crowd, and he was various he was a doctor in Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. He was Rabbit in Year of the Rabbit. He's the one, Straightly Come Down to the theme tune. Oh, that's Mark Berry. Strictly Come Dancing around the world in Dancing with the Stars, if anyone was wondering. So, on this snowy day, on the 8th of January 2025, in the United Kingdom, UK, I'd like to say bye-bye. Obviously, you will have heard previous me from 2025, but this is 2026, so I'm out, and this is the end of the episode. Originally, I was going to have this episode as one of those where the first part was December 2025, the second part was January 2026, and the third and final part, would be February 2026, but January 2026 version has been going for 26 minutes and about 45 seconds, so really, and if I remember rightly, the December one went on for about 10 minutes, so if we go 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, technically about 36 minutes. Really, if I went on for another 26 minutes in February, then it would be more than an hour. And because this is a solo podcast, I can talk for however long I want. And really, I can just talk for however long, and I probably would. But you need to have a restriction on how long you talk for. It's called Chatterbox for that one reason, because I chat a lot. Especially about utter nonsense, which you can probably gather that is what has happened here. So, let's go off to go and edit this now. This brand new addition to the Chatterbox podcast. Before we do go, the third channel, the Weird Side, which is where the YouTube version of this is being played visually. It's also been visually played on Spotify. I don't know about all other platforms. You can see that I did a video about ITV's future, a video about the future. There was the ITV future. It was the Stranger Things review, and it was the Archers, right? So my interviews on that channel have now been moved to a new channel called Tom Mason, the interviews. Now on that channel, not only are I'm doing the new interviews over there, which are all interviews are going to be unless they're a comedy-based interview for one comedian, 8 questions, or joking apart, or they're an interview that's connected to a podcast, then it'll be on that. The third channel interviews Tom Mason does an interview with are not being deleted off that channel, because that's the originals. They're being re-edited, reshaped, and experimented further on over on Tom Mason does an interview with, because my skills as an editor, my skills as an interviewer, and my feelings of how they look has changed. So I'm experimenting with cutting bits that I now no longer think should be in the interview. I re-edit it to make sure it looks like the standard of my other interviews, and to make sure that it fits with my brief. So if you go on the website tommason.uk, all one word, right, then you will see that the original Alex Horn interview was on the homepage, but because I'm really proud of the edits I made to the re-edited version over on Tom Mason does an interview with, not over on Tom Mason the interviews, then I've used that instead. Now with the classic interviews, which are all on the third channel, the Weird Side interviews that are being re-edited, some, like the Philip Hawkins one, took its first half from there. There's other bits happening to them to make them all interesting, aren't being promoted. I'm not promoting them, I'm not selling them, because those classic interview edits are for me only, but I wanted it to be on that channel to give it backbone. But I am promoting the new interviews, so the new interviews are being promoted on that channel, not the classic ones. But you can still see them in a playlist called Classic, and you can see the new ones in a playlist on new, or you can see them all in order on there, or you can see them on my website, tommason.uk/Tom Mason, the interviews. So, without further ado, thank you for listening to Chatterbox for January 2026. When is the next episode of Chatterbox coming? Who knows? It's whenever I want to feel like I just want to have a chat. So, thanks for listening. Bye-bye.